Arranging your plants in the garden is one of those things that many beginner gardeners really struggle with. But today I'm going to show you a few different ways that you can arrange plants in your landscape for that beautiful layered look that you want. You can use all of these ways to arrange plants to make your garden look more professional and put together right at home. So let's get into it. One of the easiest ways to arrange plants in your garden is by grouping them together. This is also known as planting in drifts. Drifts are groups of plants that can be arranged in an organic way in your landscape. Usually when you're planting in drifts, it's recommended that you do so in odd numbers like 3, 5, or 7. And just to explain a little bit about what's going on the screen, this is an overhead view. It's called a plan view of a landscape. So the circles indicate where the plants are planted from above if you're looking down on it. So you could see that not only are they planted together, but they're also overlapping quite a bit, and this is the key to planting in drifts. So why use odd numbers? Many people ask me this, and the main reason is that our brains are wired to categorize things, and they categorize them into equal or even groups. It's actually a lot easier or faster for our brains to process information when it's in even numbers. So when you plant in odd groups, it takes a bit longer for our brains to process, which can make your planting stand out. So it has a weird effect on your brain. That's all you really need to know. So when you plant in larger groups, it also creates a bit more of an impact and more drama. And if you like one plant, I always say you'll like 3, 5, or 7 of them massed together. So why not, right? So here's just an example of a drift planting. In this picture, the purple geraniums are planted in drifts. There's a massing of at least 3 geranium plants on the right side of the screen right now. And in addition, there's groupings of geraniums all the way down the path that are distributed in 7 separate drifts. So not only using drifts in your plantings, but repeating them throughout your landscape can give you a really professional and really beautiful look. And here's just another very simple example of black-eyed Susans, and they're weaving throughout the other plantings of this landscape. So it's clearly not just one plant. And I know a lot of people think when they're doing a cottage garden that they have to mix all their plants together. So you have a tendency to only buy one of each plant and try to make that look happen at home. But really, cottage gardens often use drifts in their designs, and you can see how that looks here and how impactful that can be. And it still looks obviously very cottage garden style. Here are a couple photos I took at Phipps Conservatory in Pittsburgh, PA, and I just loved these combinations. The one on the right shows just a drift of 3 cactus plants, and the one on the left, it shows a couple more. They're not in rows or anything, they're just kind of drifting throughout. So that's just another example of how you can use drifts. And I just wanted to show this picture as well to show that it doesn't have to be flowering plants in your drifts. So here you could see the use of grasses and even evergreen trees in drifts. This is sort of a more modern style garden with obviously Asian influences, but it's very peaceful and tranquil, and it also uses drift planting. And here's just a beautiful cottage garden, and you could see that there's a variety of plants used, but there's not one spot in this garden that I can actually pick out that has just one single plant. Even if there's just one single plant, it's repeated in a group of 3, 5, or 7 on the other side of that border. So just keep that in mind when you're planting your cottage garden or a mixed border of any kind. It really just makes it more impactful, it makes it look more professional. And here's even a naturalistic style garden where they're repeating groupings of plants throughout the matrix planting. So you may be wondering if there's ever a time where you would use even numbers in plantings. And yeah, absolutely, you can use even numbers of plants. And the reason that this works is because it's really easy for our brains to process. But the thing about using even numbers of plants in groupings is that it kind of removes the attention from the area. And I'm going to show you a couple examples of that. It works really well for formal or traditional style gardens where symmetry is really needed in your garden. So if you're looking for that traditional or formal style, definitely don't shy away from those even numbers. And here's an example of a traditional garden that uses drift plantings. This is actually at Hidecote Manor Garden. It has a very formal style and a lot of even numbers in the plantings that creates symmetry and that formal look that you expect in that traditional style garden. And here's an example of symmetry that really removes attention. The plantings on the left and the right side of the path are symmetrical and they're all the same, but your eye kind of just glazes over it. The reason that you would do something like this is to draw attention away from the left and the right side of the path so that somebody will focus on the focal point in the center. So this is just another example of how you could use even groupings to create a statement in your garden. So when does the number of plants, odd or even, not matter? There is a point where our brains can't really determine how many plants are in a drift, and that is after about 7 plants. So if you're doing groups of 3, 5, or 7, and then after that, it doesn't matter if you use 8, 9, 10, 11. It doesn't matter if the number is even or odd. I would really encourage you to try to use maybe 9 or 10 or 11 or 12 plants if you have a bigger space, and you can do that because it really creates such a huge impact and it looks so good. I swear it looks really good, and I have lots of examples of this. But just know that after you get to that 7 mark, it doesn't really matter so much if you have odd or even numbers, because our brains just won't count after that. So here's an example of a drift planting where there are more than 7 plants. Obviously, how many plants are there? I have no idea because my brain doesn't want to count them. So when you're planting in large drifts, another tip is the goal is to make the grouping look like one large statement instead of just individual or separate plants. So when you're looking at that plant tag and trying to determine how close to plant them, make sure you're planting them a little bit closer than what the tag says so that they kind of overlap. If you plant them too far apart, you're going to see those separate plants, and that's not really the goal of this sort of planting. You want to get them to like mesh together. If you like that awesome planting trip, you'll love what I share about navigating the plant nursery in my 3 Gardening Secrets training. This training is absolutely free. It'll go over the most common mistakes I personally made when I was new to gardening, and those set me back about 6 years in my gardening journey. So in that free training, I'm sharing all of those mistakes with you so that you can fast track your success and learn from my mistakes. And at the end, I'll also tell you a little bit more about my Design Your 4-Season Garden course and how my course can help you get your dream garden without all of the drama that normally comes with trying to pick and place your plants. Okay, so let's get into some more awesome ways to arrange your plants. Another way that you can arrange plants in your landscape is by creating a focal point. I like to call this the star. So you're going to pick a superstar plant that you love, or even position a sculpture or another object as the focus in your garden bed, and then arrange plants around that focal point to bring it all together. Some focal point ideas, like I said, are pots or containers, a statue, a fountain, a bird bath, or even just a really vibrant plant. So let's look at some examples of those. So this adorable container creates a bold focal point in the garden when it's surrounded by the pale blue, purple flowers, and that's because orange and blue are complementary colors. So not only is it creating that superstar look, but it's also punching up the color with that opposite color scheme there. This container is at Chanticleer Garden in Wayne, PA, and it really takes center stage, even though if you've noticed there's not even a single plant inside this container, but it's just so beautiful. I love the way that the teal and the red really pop off of each other, and then it's just surrounded by a drift of hostas just to nestle it into the landscape, and I think that's a great way to use containers in your landscape. And here's another example of a focal point of a container with really brightly colored plants. And then there's just neutral plants that are surrounding that to make it really the star of the show. And if you want to use a plant as your focal point and arrange other plants around it, I thought this was like a really fun example of just how bright orange poppies are surrounded by purple. It looks like salvia probably to me, but that contrast in color and just the single plant of poppies with that purple drift around it is really cool. Here's another example. I think these are pink drifts of heather, and it's just to show that your focal point could also be a tree. So this is a tree surrounded by obviously a huge field of heather, or maybe lavender. I don't know. You'll have to let me know in the comments below if you know exactly what this is, but I thought it was a really cool example, even though it's on a bigger scale, and obviously we can't do that unless we have a really big garden, but it is a cool example nonetheless. So the next way that you can use to arrange plants, I call the tier. And this is really a simple way to do it. You just create rows in the garden. And this is a really good thing to do if you really just don't know what else to do and you're trying to get ideas. So take your plant pots and arrange them from the tallest plants in the back, the medium ones in the middle, and the shortest ones in the front. And you can arrange it straight rows. It looks a little bit more traditional and a little bit more formal. I personally am a fan of a more informal or cottage style garden, but this is a very traditional look. It gives you a really clean layout, and lots of gardeners enjoy using this type of layout. So here's just an example of one I saw at Phipps Conservatory in Pittsburgh. The plants are arranged in these neat and tidy rows from the tallest, the hydrangeas in the back, to the shortest in the front. And this is a really great way to get that traditional style look. And I kind of like that they also did it on a curve, so it makes the planting a bit more interesting, even though it is just very straight, high, medium, low rows. And here's just another example of using rows. In this photo, they're only using 2 rows. So they have like an evergreen hedge in the front, and then behind that they have, looks like roses or something maybe, but just showing that the lower ones are in the front and the taller ones are in the back, and it's nice and straight and formal looking. And here's another example where it's almost perfectly in rows, but it still is following that, where the tallest plants are in the back on the left, and then they have medium-sized plants and then smaller plants. So I just wanted to show that as a way to do it. It's formal, but it's a little bit less formal than having the exact same plant. They kind of mixed up the mums in the front where there's white and yellow. And then this lavender could also be considered like a very large drift of plants, but since they're in such orderly rows, I thought it was a cool example of how you could do the rows of plantings and how that could really make an impact. I mean, look at that, that's beautiful. So this one I like to call the weave, and that's why I kind of said to set out your plant pots and put them from tall to medium to low, because what you can do with the weave is just sort of take those plants and then kind of shimmy them back and forth in the rows to create a little bit more of an informal look. So the rows are formal, and then the weave would make that row planting a bit more informal. So in this mixed border, you can see that different groups of plants are weaved in and out of the rows. It's especially evident where the sedum and the lavender drifts are weaved in and out of the front row of the border. It gives the planting a little bit more of an informal or a cottage feel. And here, the pink wallflowers in the very front foreground on the right are also weaved into the background of the planting. So I kind of like that example where you're not only using that one plant here, but you're also putting a touch of it over here. That looks really cool. And here you can see how the yellow plants are not just lining the front border of the garden like they would if you were doing that tiered row. They're weaved into the middle ground layer as well. So those are just a few examples of how you can use the weave in your garden. And if you liked all of the tips and tricks that I gave you about arranging plants in this post, you may want to check out my garden design playlist, where I share lots more ways to combine your love of gardening with tried and true design principles that will take your space to the next level. I'll leave a link to it right here, and I'll see you over in the next video.